Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the digital asset investor. I'm sorry I've been out of town on vacation the last few days, and so I hope that you are not mad at me, but I'm back, and I've been reading the news, and I have a lot of different things I was going to talk to you about today. I'm going to start with, I got an idea from a friend of mine on here, Mike Jansen. I've talked about him before. He had suggested to me that I mention that people should subscribe to my channel at the beginning of my videos as well as at the end. So from now on, I'm going to try to remember to do that. I think that might get more subscribers. And I wanted to show you visually, those of you that don't know how you go about doing that. You can see in each one of my videos right here, you can click and you can subscribe. And also something that I've probably never mentioned is you can go up here and you can click on this bell, and this will, from then on, it will notify you when I've posted a video. So I just wanted to mention that to you. So go ahead and subscribe now. And there is no, I mean, it's a free thing. It's not something that's gonna bother you or anything. Just subscribe and then click on that bell up there, and you'll be notified from now on whenever I do a video. Now, there are many things that I read. I was on Twitter while I was on vacation, but there's many things that I read during this weekend, and there was all kinds of good news, not just for Ripple, but for the digital asset market itself overall. And I'll try to go through some of these. Now, today's video may be, I'm kind of trying to play a little bit of catch up, so today's video may be, I tried to organize it as best I could, but there are so many interesting little pieces of news that I have that I'm going to try to get myself caught up and get you caught up. So we'll start with what I think is kind of an elephant in the room, and that was the announcement that Bill Clinton will be speaking at the Swell event in October for Ripple. Now, when I was on Twitter talking about this when it happened this week, I noticed an almost visceral response to Bill Clinton being the speaker, and apparently there are a lot of people that do not like Bill Clinton. Well, here's what I'm going to say about that. First of all, my channel, I intentionally do not talk about politics or what I think about politics or any of these type of things, because that's not what I'm here for. What I'm here for is because I believe that we all have a once-in-a-life opportunity to make thousands of % of a return on our investment in XRP, and so that's what I'm here to talk about. But because Bill Clinton was chosen, I'm going to give you my opinion on not Bill Clinton, but my opinion on how you need to look at this and how you should look at this, because remember, we are logical, common sense investors. We're not emotional investors. If you're listening to me, you know that that's how I look at this whole thing. So I want you to go through this with me, and I want to explain to you what my thought pattern is on this. First of all, and I'm going to kind of try to delete these so my computer runs faster as I do these. Let's go, this is the coin market cap list, and let's go back to why it is that we chose, or I'll tell you why I chose, and I believe a lot of you chose XRP from the laundry list of digital assets that there are. And my choice of XRP was for specific reasons, but one of those reasons, and probably the biggest reason, is that Ripple did something that no other representative of these digital assets did when they began, when this company started. From the very beginning, Bitcoin was started, and Bitcoin was kind of started as it was an anti-government movement, really, if you really want to sum it up. And so the Bitcoin maximalists that there are so many of them that hate XRP to this day, They are all about being independent of the government and this is to get government out of our business, and our money's our money and this and that. Well, from a very early on, I discovered Bitcoin, but for the exact reason that I agree with many of these Bitcoin maximals. I think Bitcoin was a response to the 2008 financial crisis, and the reason it was even created was because of what the politicians had done to destroy money. But I'm also 44 years old now, and I am not naive enough to believe that you are going to create a digital asset and you're just going to, because of the nature of it, you're going to somehow keep the government from being involved. We see on a daily basis that the government is not letting any of this happen without being involved on some level. And anybody who believes that that's going to happen is extremely naive. We chose XRP because we believed that here's a smart group of guys. Ripple, these are a smart group of guys who are connected and very intelligent and well off, and these people have gotten together and they're taking the smart approach that yes, digital assets are revolutionary, but we need to this will not get done. And from an investor perspective, this is not going to go where I want my investment to go unless we approach it from the standpoint of being friendly with the government and working with them from day one. That's just the grown-up approach. And XRP is the only digital asset that has done this from day one. That's a fact, and it's just the way it is. And for that reason, and what this has to do with Bill Clinton is what I'll talk about now. A part of you know how I like to tie movies and different things that I see in with my videos, but a part of what does Bill Clinton represent? Bill Clinton represents the establishment, politicians, the establishment of traditional power. Well, if you believe that Ripple and in turn XRP is going to go where you want it to go as an investor without being hand in hand in some kind of way with the establishment power base of this country, you are out of your mind. And the security issue alone tells you that. The security, whether Ripple is a security or not a security, those type of things can be solved with a magic wand if you're associated with the right people in power. I want to illustrate this with a movie I watched recently, which is a great movie called American Made. It was a Tom Cruise movie, and there's a scene in that movie where Tom Cruise, who, if you haven't seen the movie, and I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I'll give you the general premise. Tom Cruise was a pilot, and the CIA hired him to do reconnaissance missions, and he was taking photos, and then that led to the Pablo Escobar turning him into a guy that would, while he's doing his he found out he was working for the CIA. He also began running drugs for Pablo Escobar, and then he began running guns for the U.S. government, and it was a big, huge mess. The guy had stockpiles of cash, and eventually he got arrested, and this is the arrest scene that you're looking at here. Great movie. Go watch the movie. It's awesome. But this is the arrest scene. But there's a scene in this. He lived in Arkansas when he got arrested. And you can see in this scene, he got arrested by, there were all sorts of law enforcement arms involved, such as the FBI, the DEA, and the state troopers, I believe, were also involved. But there's a scene where the district attorney is telling him, "I've got you. You're dead to rights." And all of a sudden, she gets a phone call, and the phone call came from none other than Bill Clinton, who was the governor of Arkansas at the time. And while the phone call is going on, there's a scene where Tom Cruise is talking to all these DEA agents and FBI agents and state troopers, and he's telling them, if you guys will just let me go, I'll buy you all Cadillacs. And it's a kind of funny scene. And then the district attorney walks out, and to tell him that Bill Clinton, he doesn't tell him this, but basically Bill Clinton lets him go, doesn't let him go, but puts him in the custody of these people, and he ends up at the White House of all places because he was I guess he knew too much. But the point is that a phone call was made, and the point I'm making to you is that we as Ripple holders, we are affiliated with something huge, and I've said it time and time again, and we are in the club. We are associated with the company we're associated with is associated with people who can make phone calls and get your kid into Harvard. These kind of people. These are the kind of people that we're going to, as investors, these are the kind of people you want to be associated with to get to where we know we're going to get. And it's a great thing. Whether you like Bill Clinton or don't like Bill Clinton is irrelevant. This is something that many of you probably know about, and many of you don't. But there is and I don't want to get Alex Jones on you, or a tinfoil hat on you, but there is a thing called the Bilderberg Group. The Bilderberg Group is a meeting of some of the most powerful people in the world. They get about 150 people together every year, and they meet, and it says on the Bilderberg, this is on the Wikipedia, but it says on here that this is a quote from one of the founders says, "To say we're striving for a one world government is exaggerated, but not wholly unfair. Those of us in Bilderberg felt we couldn't go on forever fighting one another for nothing and killing people and rendering millions homeless. So we felt that a single community throughout the world would be a good thing." Well, the reason I bring up the Bilderberg Group is for two reasons. The first reason is to tell you that there are very, very powerful people, well-connected people who run the world, and these are the people that Ripple is and will have to be affiliated with to turn the financial world upside down, which is what Ripple conquering Swift and XRP taking over will involve. And I also wanted to mention to you that guess who is on the list of Bilderberg participants over the last few years? Two people are on the list that you might find interesting. One is this year's swell speaker, Bill Clinton. He has attended Bilderberg. Another, which is also interesting, is Ben Bernanke, who was last year's swell speaker. And these are the kind of things that you need to know. I've kind of scanned the list. The people on this list are people like prime ministers. I mean, they're big people, really important people, financial people, huge, important people. One of them works at Santander, which is one of Ripple's partners, just as an aside. All right, I'm going to go on to some of the pieces of news that I thought were extremely important that I noticed this week. The first one is that Northern Trust is helping hedge funds invest in cryptocurrencies. And the reason this is important is that this is the custodian issue. Northern Trust wants to act as a custodian. They're a traditional custodian currently, and so to have a traditional custodian moving into the digital asset space is huge, because this is how we get legitimization, and digital assets become legitimate in the overall scheme of things as compared to traditional assets like stocks and things like that. And so this is big, and they say in this that they are they're going to help traditional mainstream hedge funds expand into cryptocurrencies. Northern Trust president told the news organization that the financial services firm is working with 3 hedge funds whose names he declined to provide to add cryptocurrency investments to their portfolios. So this is more of those pillars I've talked about before. The foundations are being laid to have crypto brought into the mainstream. All right, next up. This is another thing where Ripple is getting into, is putting Ripple and XRP into the mainstream. It's our pop culture, and I love seeing these little things. This is where Ripple announced that Madonna is going to help to fundraise along with Ripple in Africa to raise money for orphans. Well, This is genius. This is part of Ripple's plan to not just get into the pop culture, but also to do charitable work at the same time. And this is one leg of a multi-leg stool that Ripple, their plan that they have in motion, and it's genius. But just think of the names that Ripple has been affiliated so far with. We've got Ashton Kutcher, we've got Ellen DeGeneres, we've got Snoop Dogg, we've got Madonna. I believe Justin Bieber's manager was working with Ripple. Ripple has got a brilliant strategy that's moving this company in the right direction. All right, next, Thomson Reuters is adding 50 crypto assets to their finance data feed. This is I'll just read this beginning here. Canadian-based information and news provider Thomson Reuters is to track a number of crypto assets on one of its desktop finance feeds. So what this is doing is this is just like the I mentioned a while back, the Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Finance was adding XRP and a lot of digital assets into its Yahoo Finance. And it's basically side by side with stocks and bonds and all these. And all they're doing, these are the pillars being put down, just like I keep saying. This is the formation of an entire market. And down the road, it's gonna be more and more established. And at some point, all of the sheeple, the people that just feel like all this is just too risky for them, at some point, it's not just going to be, the foundation's not just going to be in place, but all of those people are going to start being told it's safe to come in the water now. And at that point, you and I, who will have been sitting here for months or a year or so, will have a huge smile on our face, because that's when it's all going to go off. Okay, and I pulled this because this illustrates the point as well. A Gallup poll that was 75% of U.S. investors think Bitcoin is very risky. Well, of course they do, because the powers that be for the last 6 months have tried to make them feel like it's very risky so that they could park their money in this. And so if you look down here, this is what I wanted to show you that's so huge here. Because I've told you before, you're in the first inning of a 9-inning game as an investor in XRP right now. Well, you might be like in the first half of the first inning. It says a poll conducted by Gallup and Wells Fargo asked U.S.-based investors about their views on Bitcoin, finding that just 2% currently own any, and more than 70% have no interest in ever buying Bitcoin. A further 26% are intrigued but do not plan to purchase any in the near future, the poll found. Well, this number right here is fascinating to me. In the United States, your average investor, 2% of them are currently invested in Bitcoin. Do you know what that means for XRP? I discovered Bitcoin first because it's the first thing that I heard about, and you did too, most likely. But we put our money in Bitcoin, and right quick we said, whoa, are there any other ones that are smarter digital assets? And we found XRP, which was and is. But if 2% of the U.S. investors are in Bitcoin, do you know what that means for XRP? That means that maybe 0.5% or 0.1% are in XRP. That's how much money there is to come that's going to be lopped on top of your investment to drive your price up. You should know that. Okay, on to the next. Now, my Twitter guys were on fire this weekend, and I just found a new Twitter guy that I like. His name's Crypto Joe, at Dave_Jones_02. And this tweet that he did caught my attention. I really like this. He says, Swift handles $5 trillion in payments every single day, or 1.25 quadrillion each year. If Ripple captures 1% of that market, it handles $50 billion a day. That's a 200 times increase from today's 24-hour XRP volume. And that's just one use case. Let that sink in. Now, I love that, because like he's saying, this is just the Swift aspect of things. I mean, this doesn't include any of the other hundreds of use cases that XRP is going to have over time. So then we have this Yahoo Finance, which is the Yahoo Finance Hong Kong. And it says 23% will consider investing in virtual currency as an investment hedging tool to counter economic reversal. Now on this right here is huge. And this is one of those things that I see as one of the most huge potential things for the digital asset market. And what that is I believe that the 2008 financial crisis, I believe that absolutely nothing was done to fix what caused that. We've got more debt than we ever had. We've got the money printing never stopped. They held interest rates artificially low for way too long. We haven't had a recession in 10 years. Your average recession happens every 6 years. I believe, and the other thing that I mentioned is, as a result of all the money printing and the debt, and I would tell you to print this print it out and put it on your desktop. Never forget Cyprus, because what happened in Cyprus is when the government put them in so much debt that they couldn't handle it, Cyprus literally they declared a bank holiday. They shut down the banks and they shaved, it was something like 10% out of the bank accounts of the people who had bank accounts at that in the Cyprus banks. And the reason I tell you that is because that caused one of the largest spikes in Bitcoin that I've ever seen. And that was back, I believe it was in 2013. You can Google it. And the reason that relates to this is, it says right here, 23% will consider investing in virtual currency as an investment hedging tool to counter economic reversal. Well, why would there be an economic reversal right now? Well, they're raising interest rates. Well, guess what? These countries have put the countries since the financial crisis are all in more debt than they ever were, by 10 times or more in many cases. So what happens when you raise interest rates when debt is that? Well, the debt, to carry the debt, it costs the governments more, and then they go into more debt. It's a snowball. Well, what is their eventual solution to that? Bailouts, bail-in, which is what they called the Cyprus thing. Where's the money going to go? Where are people who are responsible people, savers? Where are they going to see that their money could go when the governments of the world who have been irresponsible start trying to tax the people or take their money or bailouts? Where will that money flee? Well, it's a very good chance that money will do exactly what Bitcoin did when the Cyprus thing happened, and it will go into cryptocurrencies, because cryptocurrencies, most of them are deflationary, where they go up, and they're going to go up when situations like that happen. And the reason is because they can't print any more of it. Bitcoin, they can't print any more of it. Well, XRP, they can't print any more of it. It is what it is. In fact, most of these are being burned on top of that. So this is a huge piece of news. And by the way, I didn't mention, this is from one of my favorite Twitter guys, at C3_Nick. You've got to follow him if you haven't already. Okay. And this one is him too. This is C3Nick too. I love this. Morgan Stanley appoints ex-Credit Suisse banker as new head of digital assets. Okay, people, pay close attention, because the world is changing. Morgan Stanley is one of the top 3 or 4 investment banks and brokerages in the world. Okay, when you start seeing them changing the titles of their people, or creating titles that are around digital assets, then get ready, because the money's coming. Okay, I don't think it can be much more clear than that. A head of digital assets, the guy has to head some digital assets, doesn't he? All right. And then there's this. This came out. Ripple partner SBI Holdings enters cryptocurrency derivatives market with new investment. And this is, I've talked about SBI Holdings till I'm blue in the face. SBI Holdings, that is our bird in the hand. SBI Holdings makes we XRP holders rich if nothing else happens. SBI is, I've told you before, owns 11.5% of XRP. So this is just talking about them. They're going to get into the derivatives market, which is where that's where, shoot, that's where this could get bigger than anything, is in the derivative market. On to the last thing, okay? Now, this is in the last couple of days. Ripple surging, this is from Fast Money. Ripple surging more than 5% this morning, while the rest of the major crypto coins are mixed. And this is where the rubber hits the road, okay? Because ultimately this is what's going to happen. The reason this happened is the last thing I want to talk to you about, because this is huge. The difference between Ripple and all of these things is two words: use case. None of these have use case. They're not going to have use case. Ripple's whole point, their whole reason for being, is that they have use case and that they're faster and more scalable than anything else. Ripple has a use case, and on this day, that's just a test run of what you're going to see. And here's what that spike was about. There was a rumor, and the volumes kind of showed it, where XRP spikes, and it's SBI Holdings trialing XRapid in their new FX pairs. And that's what this article is about, is how the FX market with SBI could, here it says, new trading pairs with anywhere from 30 to 60 savings on fees and that's using XRapid. And so this right here is huge, but it illustrates the point that when you hold XRP, let's go back. When you hold Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash or Ether or Litecoin, you're waiting for good news. In all of those, you're waiting for good news so that the speculation price goes up. You're also waiting for good news with XRP so that the speculation price goes up. But there's a key difference. With XRP, any day, any moment, any second, the use case can kick in the way that it did here, and we believe this is just a test. Well, when the use case kicks in, guess what else is going to kick in on top of the use case? More speculation. Ripple is going to dwarf all of these, and that's the reason. But the great thing is Ripple also has smart contracts, and so you're going to see, just like Ether, the reason Ether is one of these that's more unique than these others, in that it has smart contracts where other digital assets can be created, built on top of Ether. Well, guess who also has that? Ripple, XRP. And so I think that I've covered a lot today, but I'm sorry I was out of pocket the last 4 days. It's not going to happen again for a while anyway. Maybe my next vacation will be when we blast off, which will happen any day now. All right, I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. I'm the digital asset investor. Please subscribe, and I'm going to keep telling you this because I'm trying to grow this. If I could grow it enough, then I will do nothing but bring you guys videos, and I'll do it often, and maybe live streaming as well. Also, I tell you this all the time. Go in the description of my videos. Get your Ledger Nano S. It's the only safe way to hold your cryptocurrencies. The description of every one of my videos has it, and it will take you directly to the Ledger company so that you can buy it directly, which is the only safe way to do it. Well, thank y'all for listening, and I will be